So today I'm going to review my new red Komodo camera, which you can see right here. I've had it for about a month, almost right at a month, and I was kind of waiting until I had some more hands-on time with it. Should probably honestly wait even longer to give a more thorough review, but I want to be able to milk the YouTube views on this as much as I can. Komodo number 112, which is cool. So what is this? Is this the new magic camera that everybody should go buy? Sort of. Depends on what kind of a filmmaker you are, what you use your camera for. I guess I should preface sort of my experience with red cameras as sort of a setup for my personal opinion about it. So I've been shooting on red since 2012. I started following red probably around 2009 or 10, kind of after they'd made the red one, and then there were like the rumors of like the next line of cameras before the DSMC lineup was kind of announced, and there was like, back then there was going to be a 3K for 3K camera, like a 3K resolution camera for $3,000. I was going to like use these little mini prime lenses, and it was sort of like the sweet spot. So that's about kind of when I first started getting excited, because that was like the first time it got like approachable to me. So before then I was using Canon XL series video cameras, and then had switched to the 70, which was their first DSLR that shipped with 1080p video recording. The 5D got it with firmware update after its release. I was right in that window, like fall of 2009, when like DSLR shooting video started to be the first thing. And so I shot with that for about 2-3 years. And then Red Scarlet and Epic X were announced, and took out a loan and paid for a Scarlet camera, which was more than the 3K for 3K that I was looking forward to, but kind of was hoping, like a lot of people, I think when you're starting out, you're hoping the gear is gonna take you to the next level. It's gonna like skyrocket your career or something. It's really easy when you're sitting like at home on the internet, like trying to figure out how to start your business or what you're gonna shoot or how you're gonna do things. It's really easy to put all your eggs in the gear basket. And I admittedly did that with red, and I don't regret it. But it's definitely, I see a lot of people looking at the Komodo now as like that thing that's gonna sort of change their life, if they can, their first red, and it's gonna make everything amazing. And there is something to that to some degree, but it's also just a camera. So if you're not doing anything interesting with whatever camera you have now, this isn't gonna change it. If anything, you're gonna have more people shooting red than ever, and it's gonna be less special, more standard. So it's really gonna be about what you're doing with your camera, and that's sort of something I've kind of learned the hard way by putting the money in up front on red cameras. Having Red Scarlet, then I upgraded to the Epic X from the Scarlet because of Red's generous upgrade programs over the year. Then I went to the Dragon sensor from that, and then we did a crazy contest in 2016, a Christmas thing, where we were one of 15 people that won a free DSMC2 Dragon weapon camera. The Weapon MG is what it was called. They don't make that one anymore. It was like the very first DSMC2 camera. And so for a brief moment, we had two red cameras, like an Epic Dragon and a Weapon MG. And we shot a couple things with two cameras. It was nice having two cameras, but I also felt like I had two cars from like a financial perspective. It's like, God, this is a lot of value we're sitting on. And, one of these could pay for all of the accessories we need for the other one. I really liked having, two cameras. Most video production companies have more than one camera. You have an A cam and a B cam at least. But we've always stuck to our guns, and just, for me, it was important to have everything consistent and shoot everything in RAW, everything with the best quality we can do. So we've always been pretty much a one-camera operation, except for about 3 months there where we had two, and then I ended up selling the Epic Dragon and going all in with the new Weapon MG. And in fact, actually, I used some of the proceeds from selling that to then upgrade the Weapon MG, because it's sort of at the end of its line, to the Weapon Helium, because the upgrade window for that was closing. And so for the last 3 years now, 3.5 years almost, since 2017, I've been shooting with the Weapon Helium, everything in 8K. I've been following the Komodo really closely because this is sort of back when I was lucky enough to have two Red cameras, and then going back to one, there were some things we did in that time, like just having two cameras for interviews and stuff like that. Where it's like, boy, it sure was nice for a moment to be shooting with two Reds, and I've looked at other models of cameras that have come out along the way and thought, like, should we get like an A7 or something that we can like use as a B camera for interviews and stuff. And I've mostly just stuck with the benefit of the 8K resolution of the Helium, where you can punch in, and so getting two shots out of one that way, which is not necessarily ideal, but it's a workaround for somebody who doesn't want to buy another camera. That is until the Komodo, which is the perfect B camera for anybody that already is a Red user. It's what I've been waiting for a long time. It is, just to kind of briefly go over specs and stuff, it's a 6K resolution sensor. It can shoot up to 40 frames per second in 6K, and then it goes down from there. Does 4K at 60. A lot of people want 4K 120 nowadays. It's never going to be able to do that, from what I've seen. It was built as a crash cam, as like an action camera for like Hollywood movies and stuff. So they tried to make something that was fairly indestructible and small, that you could put in the dash of a car or put in weird places, throw it on a gimbal on a car, on a whatever. And then it sort of morphed into being sort of the perfect tiny Red as well. A lot of people are looking at it as, their potentially their first Red camera, and being their only camera, being their kind of main unit. And it'll probably be somewhat successful at that. I would caution people. First of all, right now you can't even buy it. If you're watching this is the first time you heard of it, it's not even for sale. It's not listed on a website. It's not an official product yet. This is a beta camera. All these white and the colored Komodos that have come out over the summer have been part of a cool sort of VIP list of people you had to kind of know to get on an email list to get notified, and then kind of try for the earlier colored ones before doing their larger Stormtrooper run, which I'm estimating right now. I think they're in like the 600s of people that have bought these. I'm guessing when it's all said and done, it's probably gonna be like around 1,000 beta Stormtrooper Komodos. The production ones will be black, normal cameras, and will come out before the end of the year, I think, but it's all kind of dependent on COVID stuff. But anyway, all of these reviews and test footage and stuff that you see online right now, it's all sort of got the big asterisk by it of this isn't even a camera you can buy yet, and is technically a beta. When you boot it up, it says beta on the screen. So what does all that mean? Set aside the fact this will be the cheapest Red camera they've ever made. It's going to retail for like $6,000 by itself, just the cube. And set aside that, and being Red raw footage coming out of something this small and this cheap, the things that set it aside for me is that it's operating a bigger Red has a lot of trade-offs, especially as like mirrorless cameras and DSLRs have really kind of grown over the last 5 years or so. You can't use little handheld gimbals with a normal Red camera. The accessories are expensive, the media is expensive, the batteries are big and heavy, and like last January we did like a little adventure documentary on a trip we took to Big Bend, where we hauled the Helium with us on like trails and stuff, and it was sort of exhausting, and it's just like we're putting a lot of effort into trying to do all this in 8K raw, you know, like that's always been sort of important to me. It may be sort of superficial, but there are a lot of situations where you feel the weight of the red, and even though it's so much smaller than, you know, 35 millimeter film cameras and stuff, again, it's all about your perspective and what's relative to your experience. But in general, for a lot of video stuff, it's the bigger, heavier camera, and when you pull it out, you're doing something serious and controlled, and you're gonna have a crew of people, and it's not really the one-man band camera, even though that's largely how I've used it for the last 8 years. And so the idea of a camera that's, you know, 3-4 pounds lighter, uses off-the-shelf Canon batteries, which these two guys power it for 3 hours, which is longer than any of, even my biggest V-mount battery. I think is 2.5 hours on the helium. And it's probably the size and weight of, you know, 6 or 8 of these. You're carrying a lot of weight whenever you carry that around, basically. And this is not very heavy. It shoots on CFast cards. There's the little slot. It's you know, a lot smaller than a mini mag. And anybody that's been shooting with a red more than 5 years will remember the original mags were even bigger than these, and these are tiny compared to those, and now we're down to these. So all those things add up kind of a lot, and this is the closest a red and red image quality has gotten to sort of the mirrorless world. And now you can actually, you know, people are putting these on Ronin S's and stuff. So sort of the freedom that, you know, a lot of the video industry has enjoyed with, you know, smaller, lighter, better mirrorless technology and all that, is now kind of coming to red. And what that also means is autofocus is here. At least there's technically autofocus on the helium, but it's best not to even ever touch it. This is the first kind of sensor that has PDAF, you know, sensor pixels on it and stuff, and it's sort of work in progress autofocus from red. So you will be able to use this a lot, like a lot of people use an A7 or what have you. All that being said, it is very much still a work in progress. In fact, there's new firmware coming out on Friday, I believe, that's going to add a bunch of stuff. So some of the things that are missing, you know, some of the I guess drawbacks right now with a beta camera, so it's kind of hard to call it a drawback. The compression. So on a normal red, you have compression ratios that go from like 3:1 to like 20-something to 1. The kind of rule of thumb is a lot of Hollywood productions shoot at like 3 or 5:1. Other stuff maybe 8:1. I've always shot with 12:1 on the helium. On the Dragon before that, I would do 10:1. The helium's got, you know, finer pixels, so it can do compression a little better. I've never, in all my testing, I've never seen a huge difference between, you know, 5:1 and 12:1. I think a lot of people, it's just a thing in their head of compression is bad, so you gotta have the least compression possible. 99.9% of what we shoot is meant for social media, YouTube and stuff like that. Some stuff goes on TV, but arguably that compression's even worse. So the space trade-offs are in favor of going to a lower compression with the red. On the Komodo right now, they've kind of reworked it to where they're only going to have like 3 levels: a high quality, medium quality, and a low quality. And as of right now, they only have high quality, medium quality enabled on the Komodo, which means on the 1 terabyte CF card that I have in here, I can get 58 minutes of record time. Let's see. That's in 40 frames per second. So at 24 frames per second, I can get an hour and 14. That's at medium quality. So that's a lot of space for not a ton of footage. In fact, right now, shooting 8K at 12:1, I'm not sure what the numbers are, but I just have the 480 gig Mini mags, I have 2 of those, and I'm pretty sure I get more than that out of those. The ratio right now for me is definitely eating up more data with the Komodo than at 6K than the Helium at 8K. So that might be a little alarming to people. That being said, I'm not, it might be Friday we get firmware that enables low quality, and it might be better. But in my head, getting this, I was thinking, okay, 6K, it'll be a more efficient camera. So there's stuff where if I need to be running gun, I can go take this. But in fact, when it comes to storage, this is actually less efficient right now than the other Reds. What else? On one hand, I don't feel like I should recommend it to people. On one hand, you can't buy it anyway again. It's hard to recommend for somebody coming from a DSLR or mirrorless, because there's going to be a lot of sort of creature comforts of that format that don't translate here. I've seen a lot of it with some of the people that are buying this, and it's their first Red. Just people that don't know the file structure of the RAW. A lot of people talking about, the straight out of camera look, which sort of isn't a thing on a Red, because everything's RAW. Everybody wants to know what the base ISO is, and again, the ISO is metadata on a Red. So there's sort of like terminology and holdovers from other ways of shooting that people are trying to kind of learn that the Red way is a little different. But yeah, in general, this isn't a good slow motion camera. I think down at 2K you can do 120, which is like on the Helium, I think at 2 or 3K I can do like 300 maybe, which is something I never use because the Red cameras crop in every time you drop down. So I never go below 4K because as you crop in on that Super 35 sensor, you're getting a grainier and grainier image as you go down. So 2 and 3K on a Red on an 8K Helium sensor it's just a bad image. It's not a good usable image. It's there for like extreme situations where it's really important to have those frame rates, but I never go below 4K. And likewise, I wouldn't do the same here. So for all intents and purposes, this is a 4K 60 or 6K 24 camera. But in general, I really don't like to drop down. So the global shutter is a big deal. So just to talk about it, this has a Canon RF mount, which is a nice flush mount as opposed to the bigger Reds, which have the interchangeable mount systems. I've always been kind of an EF mount shooter, so this is an RF to EF adapter, and then an EF IRIX Cinelens. What the RF mount allows, it's got a shorter flange distance, so you can have these adapters like this one, which has that's the Canon ND or polarizer adapter. So this gives me a behind the lens polarizer I have in there right now. And I'll be getting some of the breakthrough ND filters that they're making for it. It has this Wi-Fi antenna. So there is an app. It's only on iOS right now, so I haven't actually used it yet because I'm an Android guy. But they're working on the Android app too. You can stream all the controls from the Red to the app. You can stream a live feed from the camera to your phone or tablet or even another computer. You can just type in the IP address of the camera and bring up a live feed on a laptop or something, which is super cool, especially in these social distancing times. So for productions trying to social distance, you can have built-in wireless monitoring, which is pretty cool. It's still early in the days of like accessories and stuff. This is a handle that Red makes. It's got a start and stop on it. I've got some Tilta accessories. They got a cage and some cool handles coming out. I've got them pre-ordered, but they're not out yet. So right now the ergonomics are a little weird. It's just a blocky cube. I'm used to the bigger, heavier Red, which ironically, I guess just my muscle memory is a little more stable in holding. With this little guy, I'm finding it, especially with just one handle on the side, a little hard to keep stable when shooting handheld and stuff. But the good news is the global shutter makes doing any post stabilization a lot easier. There's just less blur and stuff. Like the warp stabilizer in Premiere Pro, which does like the subspace warp, is basically a way of dealing with normal shutters rather than a global shutter. So in the footage I've been stabilized with this, I actually turned that off. It's just position and scale and rotation. and it works pretty well. And I've noticed also just pulling stills. I just did a shoot the other day with both of these cameras, and even though the resolution of the 8K helium is, more preferable for stills, I found that there's more usable frames because of the global shutter on this guy than I get with the helium. So that's kind of a fun thing, and I think it probably goes without saying that the DSMC3 line, which will probably come out next year, I assume will have RF mounts and global shutters on everything going forward. So I look forward to an 8K camera with those two features especially, and then hopefully also shooting on off-the-shelf media and stuff like that. That's sort of trickled down to it too. The image, off the bat, it looks like red footage. It's, I could tell off the bat that 6K resolution's not 8K resolution. I'm used to looking at the 8K. So I could tell a little bit that it was just a tiny bit less sharp out of the camera than my 8K, but that's obviously to be expected. It wasn't a huge difference, in the videos where I've cut the two together, it's indistinguishable in a 4K output. But I just could tell in Red Cine X that, like, okay, it's not quite the helium, and I'm kind of glad, because that would make me a little upset about the money I put in my helium. So it still holds its place as the slightly sharper image. That being said, I think I like the stock color science of the Komodo sensor a little bit better than the helium. I haven't done any super scientific comparisons, but just kind of on the set, looking at the two against each other, I would say that the helium is a little, it's relative, but I'd say a little duller than the Komodo, but just a little bit. Obviously, being both raw, they're super easy to match. I shot at a vineyard the other day with both cameras, kind of starting in dark and through sunrise, and getting a variety of stuff with both cameras to compare. And it really is, at the end of the day, when you get into your editor and you can copy the looks between them, they look great and they match perfectly. And I've even forgotten now, when I look back at the footage, I have to really think which camera I was using at that point, because they're virtually indistinguishable in the final product. And at the end of the day, that's what I've been waiting for. I didn't expect to, having two cameras wasn't something I could justify with a Red. It was sort of a one Red or two cheaper cameras was sort of my world and budget level. And now that Red's created a second camera that I can justify owning is super exciting. I foresee a lot of situations where this will also just be the only Red that I would take to a set if it's definitely a single camera run and gun type thing. If I'm traveling for a shoot and I don't really need both cameras, I got a lot of experience only shooting with one Red, so this is certainly the easier camera to travel with, to pack in a bag, take on an airplane, whenever we can do that again. And obviously, if I'm doing hiking through Big Bend or something again, this will be a massive difference from taking the big Red around. It's kind of on our standard shoots where we have both cameras, this will be like the go-to gimbal camera. It's just, several pounds lighter on the gimbal. It's easier to balance, easier to get going, not to mention the benefits of just having it already on the gimbal ready to go when you show up to the shoot. There's no switching over. There's a lot of there's some little quality of life improvements from other Reds, like there's an on-off power switch, which is a big deal. The old Reds have a power button, and then to shut down is a software button. Some of the UI quirks right now, so it's SDI out only. I have a monitor I probably should have mounted on it for the purposes of this video, but you can use any off-the-shelf, this little small HD monitor, mounted on top, self-powered, and then SDI out to the camera, which gives you right now just a clean feed with no information on it, which is really hard to work with as far as recording goes. So there's a big red, I don't know if you can see it here. This A button is the record button, the software record button. And when you push it, it just puts this like red square, like thin red line around the little preview screen, the preview monitor, which is sort of a barely perceptible difference when you're out in the field or in bright sun. There's a little red light there too. But for instance, shooting outside at sunrise the other day, it was very hard to tell if I was recording or not. And I even mounted it up on a shoulder rig and then had the monitor here, and the monitor's clean, so there's really no way to tell without taking it down and like looking really close to the monitor, double check that you're rolling. So I'm looking forward to a better output going through the SDI to the monitor, but it's also one of those things we know is coming, and it's just a beta camera and they haven't gotten to it yet. So it's hard to complain about. It's just like there's some weird little quirks like that early on. Yeah, I'd say the two main things are getting more output information on the monitor and a lower compression for recording would be the two things I'm most looking forward to. And again, they're two things we know are coming, so it's just a matter of waiting. The autofocus works pretty well, but I only have one autofocus lens, and I've just, as somebody that's been using Reds for 8 years, obviously not a big autofocus user, but obviously the industry's headed that way, and as mirrorless cameras kind of put the pressure on these bigger cameras to adopt it, I think we'll start seeing more and more of it. It makes my lens kit a little tricky. I've just been switching back to all these manual Cine lenses, and now it's like, well, I better have a couple autofocus lenses for the Komodo and for certain situations. So it's a little bit of a, this is the perfect sort of in-between generations camera for Red. So we all know that they're going to have DSMC3 cameras coming soon as well. And this is like the perfect step between those two. It's got some nice evolutions beyond the DSMC2 line. I'll be excited to see RF mounts, presumably on the DSMC3s. I'd really love an RF mount adapter for the DSMC2, except that I don't think that's going to happen. Just for consistency of mounts and stuff. So it's nice to be able to use this Canon thing. And as far as like recommendations and stuff, it's a super easy camera to recommend to anybody that already shoots on Red. It's the perfect companion to a bigger Red. It's the perfect Red B camera. It's great for what it was designed for, and it's great for people who already use Red. There's going to be a lot of people who've never used Red before they're stepping in for the first time with this, and it's probably going to be a little confusing, and it's going to have a little bit of a learning curve. Because it's beta right now and they're still figuring out a lot of stuff, but also I assume a lot of those people are going to be more used to things like autofocus, and to a lot of people this will be heavier than their mirrorless camera, whereas somebody coming from a Red, it's much lighter. So you got to make sure whoever's opinion you're listening to, you understand their background and where they're coming from with it, because if you're coming from mirrorless cameras, this is a much different choice than if you're coming from a bigger Red. What else? Some of the other quirks that if you're not familiar with Red, it's got an input for microphone and headphones. Its onboard recording capabilities are not great. Reds have just notoriously been bad for onboard recording, and this doesn't really change that too much. It does have two little scratch mics built in as well, but typically you're going to want to record sound externally, like I'm doing right now, or get an external recorder box or some sort. I haven't figured that out yet. A lot of people seem to be buying this and then trying to rig it up like a big cinema camera. And I guess it's sort of a plus that it can do that. For me, I'm trying to keep it as small as possible because I have the bigger Red. I have a cinema set up there. And when I need to use a giant lens or something, that's what I'll use for that. This is the fun walk around camera, the little guy, the unsuspecting camera, the one that's not going to break your back to walk around a site with. And again, I've only been using it a month. Its software is going to change a lot over the rest of this year, especially. It's hard to give a definitive take on it. Personally, I love it. Again, Red users, anybody that is a single Red operator and has been dying for a second camera, it's pretty much a no-brainer. I've even gotten close. Honestly, I like the image so much that I'd say about maybe 50-50 on the idea of even just selling my helium and buying a second one of these and just having two of these. It's totally capable of replacing a DSMC2 camera, which is maybe one of the most profound things about it, is there's just not a lot of sacrifices. The only big sacrifice for me right now is I'd be stepping down from 8K potential on that guy, as well as higher speed frame rates. So I could do 8K 60 and like 4K 120 and all that stuff. So this isn't as great for slow motion, and obviously it's 6K, not 8K. But to a lot of people, that's a negligible difference. And really the size and the cheaper accessories, the third-party accessories, cheaper batteries and stuff, smaller batteries, all of that is it's as much of an impact in positives as losing 8K or high-speed frame rates would be in the negatives. So I'm really just like, there's a big part of me that just wants to have 2 of these. I could, you could fit 4 of these in a backpack easily, so here's hoping the DSM-C3 line is small too. Maybe not this small, but smaller than that. But I like where Red's going. I'm a big fan of the company and their culture, and the fact that they even have these pre-release cameras available to customers. The cool, crazy paint jobs they've been doing. I got the white one. It looks cool. Reds have always looked cool. It's cool that they value their customers and trust them enough to give them beta cameras and help make the whole program better. And it's not just some super exclusive thing. It's relatively exclusive, but 1,000 or so beta cameras is a pretty big program. I don't know. It's just fun to be with Red. You always feel like yes, there's a community, you're part of the community, but you also feel like you're almost part of the company too. And that's fun. Like it's nice to be able to email the president of the company and like talk about their product and thank them for like doing cool shit. It's, for people that it matters to, it's an American-made product. It's made in California. That's cool too. And even though they're a big company now, they still sort of feel like the underdog, and they're approachable, and they're a company worth rooting for, and they're not the big monolithic, cannons of the world. So I don't know. It's just fun it's more fun to be on that ride, I think. And, there's trade-offs. Yeah, we eat a lot of data shooting on Red, but I'm used to that. And, I like the way it works. I like the way it looks. I've built my whole career on Red cameras. I don't think I shot I wasn't doing this professionally until I had a Red. Everything I shot before that was personal projects. And so it does set a high bar, and part of my journey investing in Red cameras from the beginning, it is a little bit of a personal challenge to yourself too. Like for me, getting a Red Scarlet back in the day, I think it was like $14,000. That was a lot of money. And for me, I think there's part of me that thinks like I think a lot of people do, are like, oh, I'll never have to think about cameras again. It's gonna solve all my problems. All my stuff's gonna look amazing. And it took buying it and having it and shooting with it and realizing it's not a magic bullet, and it's not it didn't instantly change everything I did and make it look amazing. It was something I had to grow into. And as long as you're okay growing into it and recognize that it's not the magical thing that it is for people that are experienced with it, then I think it's worth investing in. I think it's nice sometimes to have aspirational technology, where it's like you put money into something and it forces you to learn it and commit to it and close that gap between your skill set and what the camera's capable of. That's kind of how I've always operated. And to some degree, there's obviously the new toys that make you excited to go out and shoot again. This has been a weird year where productions have shut down and clients aren't necessarily spending a lot on commercials right now, and there's not a lot going on. So it is kind of a weird time to release a cool camera. But there was something about like this summer being all about the conversation of the Komodo and following its release and getting one and trying it and figuring it out with the whole community. It sort of kept things interesting and fun and made you want to go out and shoot even though there was nothing to shoot. I think if anything, there's any criticism of like all the Red videos out right now and stuff, it's like clearly nobody has anything to shoot with it right now yet. There's not a lot of professional stuff coming out yet. It's just like you know, skate parks and cityscapes and, you know, people's backyards and dogs and stuff. So I was trying to wait till I had a few more things, and I'll include those clips in here. But it's still not a ton of stuff. I'll be shooting a couple client jobs next month with it, and maybe a short film too. But basically, you can assume, if you follow this channel, just like the last 3 years of stuff I put on are all 8K helium. Everything moving forward will have a combination of the two. If anything, occasionally I'll probably have some exclusively Komodo stuff where it's just something that's requires a light run and gun rig, but probably will never have exclusively helium footage again on a single project. So yeah, I like reds. I like Komodo. One thing a lot of people seem to have questions about too, there is this particular handle, because it's got an electronic button, is attached to the top where there are some pins. And it's you'd be forgiven for assuming that's the same kind of pins that are on top of the DSMC2 cameras and run the red monitors. But because this is so little and power efficient, it can't self-power a monitor. So none of the red monitors work on this camera. They're not interchangeable. Everything has to be externally powered, which was a trade-off decision they made, and I agree with, because I love the fact that these two little Canon batteries give me 3 hours of power on this. I've got 4 more coming in the mail today, actually, which will give me a total of 9 hours on a set. Like, I'll never need any more batteries than 6 of these, which is pretty amazing if you're used to having big packs of V-mount batteries with you. I mean, the Wi-Fi is cool. It's probably a feature I won't use a lot, because we do a lot of, like, you know, run and gun stuff. Our shoots are notoriously quick and efficient, and people don't know what we're getting for them when we're doing it, because we don't make a big fuss about it. We don't have a lot of people on set. We don't have a lot of gear. So Wi-Fi, you know, second operators and stuff like that is not something we do. I don't do a lot of, you know, focus pulling and all that gunk people put on top of their cameras. So for me, it's just getting a second handle or top handle of some sort, and this will probably be more or less how this camera lives. There's a weird intersection of mirrorless cameras and professional cinema cameras are happening right now, and this camera is perfectly at that intersection. As for anything else, just leave a comment. I'll try to answer any other questions. Maybe in another 6 months or so, do another follow-up about it. But that's it. This is the Komodo. One of the strangest and more unique cameras to come out in a really long time, and basically something I've been patiently holding out for since I first bought my first red, is a companion camera to go with it. So get ready to see a lot more 2-camera interview shoots from us, and yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.